Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. Technical challenges. I've never done this before, and I'm a little nervous. My name's Jody, and I am with Families Do Recover. And we are, and my other camera is freaking out. I don't know why. And I'm just going to turn it off. There we go. Sorry, I've never done this before, and I'm like, whoa. You didn't need to see my big old face. Technologically challenged today. So Families Do Recover works with parents who have children who are addicted to substances, drugs, alcohol, all that good stuff. So we also work with families who are suffering from process addiction, like cell phone, webinars, Facebook, gaming, all that kind of stuff, sex addiction, all that kind of thing, all that stuff. We work with families. And I wanted to do a free webinar because addiction is one of those things that is very, very tricky. Right? People know what's going on. People know they need help. They have all these preconceived notions of what an addict or alcoholic or someone who's addicted looks like. And it's really, really far from the truth. So today we're going to talk about, sorry, my little... So today we're going to talk about the 5 keys and what that looks like. So I don't know if you had a chance to print off the handouts that I shared. Hello, whoever's viewing. I can't see you, but I'm hoping you can hear me. So the handouts are on the first page of Google Drive. On the event page, there's a link there. If you haven't had an opportunity, go ahead and print those out because we're going to be referring to them. So today we're going to talk about, the first thing we're going to go through is the biggest barriers. What are the barriers for you and helping your child? You can't treat... Okay, so here's the deal. You can't treat an alcoholic child like you would a normal child. And I know that sounds weird. Everything you would do for a normal child, like give them money, like give them free place to stay, all that kind of stuff, right? Things you would normally do that support your regular child. Sorry, I'm going to turn this sucker off because it's not making any sense. Anything you would do to help your normal child, you cannot do with an addicted child, because at the end of the day, that's enabling. So doing things like giving money, free place to stay. I know it sounds hard. I know it does, but a place to stay. In the handout that's on the link. We've just had a couple more people join us. There's the link on the bottom of a comment on the Google page. There's a link to the handouts. So that's what I keep referring to, is the handouts. And that's why my eyes drop, because I'm reading. So if I hold it up here, maybe that's better. So things like you've discovered alcohol or drugs or drug paraphernalia, but you haven't said anything to your child. You've avoided talking to school personnel or adult or drug agencies for fearing of stigma. Your own perceptions, thinking that you're making sense of nothing. You're not. You've covered up for your child with school or work. You're excusing your child's behavior, attributing it to a phase. Afraid to enforce the consequences for negative behavior. That's a big one, right? You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to, if you make your child angry, then you're going to end up forcing him or her to go get loaded. It's not true. You don't trust your child and feel as if you're wrong. You ignore situations to avoid conflict. You become suspicious of your child's activities and therefore try to control who he or she is or where he or she goes. I remember that one. My parents used to ground me because they thought that would keep me home. I just went out the window. You blame your child's friends, school, and other people for their use. Tolerate the use of some alcohol and drugs by your children. You've bailed your child out when they've gotten in trouble with school, police, work, etc. You've made excuses for or doing their chores that were his or her responsibility. You don't talk about your concerns with others. It's very isolating, right? You end up all on your own. You've made excuses for your child. Oh, no, we did that one already. I think the present problems are your fault because you're an inadequate parent. You are not an inadequate parent, and they are not your fault, okay? You didn't cause this. You shield your child from experiencing the consequences of their actions. Yes. You threaten consequences that you don't enforce. You have incurred legal fees as a result of your child's actions. You've paid bills that your child was supposed to have paid. And you find ways to justify your child's negative behavior. They're all signs that you are enabling your child. So if you answered 5 or 6, then I would say there's a bit of a challenge there for you. 2 things. A, you can't fix what you don't know. Okay, so part of the deal with this is helping you learn new ways to do this so that you're not enabling your child. And the second thing is they're your child, right? You are where you're at where you're at, right? I don't like that expression very much, but it's true in the sense that if you could do it differently, you would do it differently. You're good parents. You didn't cause this at all. You can't cure it and you can't control it. You know, I know that for sure. Yeah, so enabling is one of those things that we look at, and yes, it gives them their own way, but if you don't know any different, then that's what you keep doing. You keep wanting to save them, you keep wanting to support them, you keep wanting to help them. But like I said before, if you are doing things for an addicted child that you would normally do for a regular child, then it's unfortunately, it's backwards. So I'm here to show you how to do it differently and take care of yourself in the process. And know that none of this is your fault, right? You didn't cause this. And I've said it a couple of times already. This isn't your fault. You didn't cause this. You're not a bad parent. Part of what happens is, like, for me, I believe I was born this way, right? I'm an addict and I was born this way. And I've been clean for a really long time now. I've been clean longer than I drank and used. So it's kind of cool. But like my parents didn't cause this. They didn't make this happen. I actually came from an okay background, right? My dad is an alcoholic and still practicing. My mom is, she's an amazing lady, and I'm really lucky to have her in my life. And, you know, at one point I didn't know if that was actually going to happen because she didn't know what to do with me. You know, she didn't really know the extent of what was going on, but the reality of it is that, you know, she was bailing me out a lot, and she lived on the other side of the country at that point, right? I have 2 brothers. They're both, one's clean and sober, the other one is not. And addiction goes way back my family tree on my dad's side for as far as I can see, as far as I can remember, right? I also was married. I have an ex-husband who is clean and sober, and I have most of my friends are clean and sober. I have a couple normal friends, but you know, and that's good. But most of my life revolves around addiction, right? And I work in addiction. I work at a treatment center and do family program there. And, you know, most of my friends are in recovery. So it's a weird kind of thing where it's just kind of part of my life. And for me, I believe for myself, I was born this way. I was a true blue alcoholic from the moment I was born. My first drug of choice was sugar. My second drug of choice was reading, anything to escape. And my mom always says to me, you know, you have this whole go big or go home thing going on. And I do, and I still do, even though I've been sober a long time. I still have this go big or go home thing. It's a thinking that doesn't change just because I stopped drinking and using. It just doesn't change. And that's where recovery comes in, right? That's really where recovery comes in, because to just stop drinking and using is fabulous. It's a hard thing to do, but the behaviors stick around, right? So, I mean, if your child stops drinking and using, they're not going to die, right? They're not putting themselves at risk anymore, but that's only half the battle. The other half of the battle is changing the behaviors, the isms that go along with the disease of addiction, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. So that list that I just went through of all the things that I know my family did, most of them. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so just glancing down, my mom did 12 of these things. And that's okay. We're still really good friends. Like, I'm 44 now. I can be friends with my mom. And we still, like in our relationship, we still struggle with this stuff, and it's difficult. So the definition of enabling is unwittingly encouraging someone to continue their addictive behavior by rescuing and shielding them from taking responsibility for his or her own behavior. Enabling behaviors encourage addicts to continue their self-destructive pattern. The only way an addict changes is if the pain is greater than the fear. The pain of using and drinking has to be greater than the fear of cleaning up. Okay. So, and according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, an enabler is one who enables another person to persist in self-destructive behavior, such as substance abuse, by providing excuses or by helping that individual avoid consequences of such behavior. So it kind of fits, right? It totally kind of fits. So that's the bottom line for that part, right? Is the less you can enable and the more you can make it so they have to own their own behavior and own their own consequences, the faster they will hit a bottom. There we go. The faster they will hit a bottom, right? Hopefully. You know, my bottom didn't look like a bottom for a lot of people, but it was inside that it hurt. So I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore, and nothing major really happened. I slept through a shift at work. I got fired from my job, I was going to get fired from my job, but I quit before they could fire me. And that was it, right? It didn't look like a big deal, but on the outside, but on the inside, I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I had a hard time owning up to a lot of the stuff that I had done. And I hadn't, I was a relatively good kid. So I hadn't done a whole lot of really horrible things to the outside world. But the shame that I carried around was unbelievable. So, getting clean and sober helped me work through a lot of that. And I mean, I'm not even close to the same person I used to be. And it's kind of cool. So we're going to talk about the next piece. And I don't know how to do this, but I wish I could see you. I'm going to try something. Okay. No, sorry. Blah. Okay. I obviously don't know how to work this thing well. I need to try and start figuring it out. Okay, so the next part we're going to look at is the 5 keys. I don't know if you can see that. It's backwards. Weird. Okay, so the 5 keys, and they are: educate yourself, learn the difference between helping and enabling, focus on yourself, let go of control. That's a tough one, hey? I still struggle with that too. Seek support from a knowledgeable professional, right? So educate yourself. Well, I know these, okay, so what I just read off, it sounds like you're doing all these things for yourself. And I get that. It sounds like these are all things that you need to do. They're not actually helping your child. But the weird thing is they are helping your child. They are helping him or her hit their bottom. Sorry, my throat's getting dry, which is very cool, because by taking care of yourself, you're not subjecting yourself to their craziness. Well, you're subjecting yourself to less craziness. Okay. So by educating yourself, you're starting, right? You're starting that right now. You're starting by just showing up to the webinar and getting some information and starting to learn the basics of what to do for yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, it's like that oxygen mask theory, right? You know, when you're on an airplane and the flight attendant standing at the front and the oxygen mask comes down and they say to put it on you, and then you put it on the people beside you. Well, it's the same kind of principle here. If you don't take care of yourself first, you will not have the ability to take care of anyone else. If you don't educate yourself, then you don't have a base to pull anything from. You don't have any skills. You don't have any. You're just flying by the seat of your pants and not really helping yourself or your child without any education. Addiction is one of those things. It's very paradoxical. What seems right is often harmful. What seems logical and normal to the rest of the world is backwards in addiction. I know it sounds really bizarre, but that's how it goes, and that's how this one works. It's not like cancer or diabetes where there's a proven path and the results come back from the doctor and the doctor says, okay, so you have really high blood sugar and you need to start taking insulin. Unfortunately, addiction is one of these things that the person who is the addict has to come to terms with that themselves. They have to, it has to hurt enough, basically. And that's hard, hard, hard. So you can help by educating yourself and knowing what you're looking at and knowing where to go and what to do and resources and that kind of thing, right? So the more you can learn about addiction and how it affects your family, the more you are prepared, right? The more you develop a better understanding of what's going on for you. Okay, the second one, which we started, was learning the difference between helping and enabling. Okay, so enabling, like we talked about earlier, is unwittingly helping someone continue to use, basically. Unwittingly helping someone to continue their destructive behavior. And not making someone accountable for their actions and behavior. And that's difficult. That's very, very difficult. Especially when it's your child, right? Especially when it's your child. You want to protect them. You want to save them. You want to shield them. You want to take the consequences for them. You want to take the hurt. I mean, my mom says to me all the time, oh God, I wish I could take that pain from you if something happens. And you can't. You just can't. right? They have to go through it themselves. They have to go through the feelings and the emotion and what all that means themselves. And it sucks and it's hard to watch. Oh my goodness, it's hard to watch. I'm watching my brother now and it's like, it's painful. I can't imagine what it was like for my mom to watch both my brother and I at the same time going through all this crap, right? Like, and she was doing things like going and paying my brother's drug dealers because they were going to break his legs. They were going to kill him. So, you know, what do you do? And nothing in all of this is right or wrong, right? You're at where you're at with all of this. It's my job as the counselor and the therapist and the helper to meet you where you are. There's no shame in being where you are with all of this. There's no, I should have done this and I should have done that. And the reality of it is that you've done the best you can with what you know. And that's really okay, right? And by being on the webinar, you're showing that yourself, more than anybody else, that you're willing to make some changes and try to do things a little bit differently. And by changing one thing, that will make a big difference. And it'll be uncomfortable for a while, and then you'll get used to it. And then you can change one more thing, and you'll be uncomfortable for a while. And then you can change another thing, and you'll be uncomfortable for a while. Right? We're going to talk about a couple of my programs at the end that might help you learn some skills. So we'll get there. Okay, so we know what enabling is. So now what is helping? Helping is showing up to help your child do the next right thing. Helping is saying, when they say, I need to go to detox, dropping them off. Helping is helping. It's supporting them on the path to recovery, not the path to addiction, right? When you're helping someone, you're helping them do better, not helping them destroy themselves, okay? And one of the ways that I can discern between helping and enabling, because I struggle with it a lot. I struggle with it an awful lot because of the population of my friends, for one thing. And I have 2 kids of my own who are, 7 and 8. And I also have 2 foster kids. So there's a lot of, oh, am I helping or am I enabling? And where's my line? And all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, so am I helping them be a better person? Or am I helping them stay stuck? That's one question I ask myself. The second question I ask myself is this in their best interest for me to do this for them? Or can they do it themselves? Right? And I run into this with my 8-year-old. So we just had birthdays, so it's complicated. I ran into this with my 8-year-old because she's special needs. And a lot of the time I'm like, okay, so if I'm not pushing her to strive to do better, am I enabling her to stay stuck? Yes, I am, right? With my teenagers, if I'm cleaning up after them and calling in sick for them for work because they're hungover or all that kind of stuff, am I helping them? Or am I just shielding them from the consequences, right? I'm shielding them from the consequences. But they're the questions I ask myself so I can put it in perspective in my own head, right? I hope that makes some sense. So if you think about the things that you're doing to help and think about the things that you're doing to enable, what's one thing you can do differently, right? What's the one thing you would like to do differently? I don't know. I can think of a couple things off the top of my head that I would like to do differently around my dad, around my brother. I'd like to not be so available. I'd like to not bail my brother out emotionally so much, right? So yeah, choose one thing and try and do it differently. And when that stops being uncomfortable, choose a second thing, right? That's how change happens. The third key is focus on yourself. What? Yeah, I know. Focus on yourself. How do you focus on yourself when you have an addicted child in your house that's running the show? You start by making a list and brainstorm all the things that you love to or used to love to do. There's no silly ideas. If you like to stand on your head and spit nickels, then stand on your head and spit nickels. If you like to swim, swim. If you like to hike, hike. If you like to read, read. If you like to play games on your phone, play games on your phone. Like, there's no right or wrong here. There's no silly answers. There's no nothing, right? So you sit and make a list of all the things that you love to or even like to do, right? And then choose one thing, just one, and schedule it into your week next week. You just schedule it in and then make sure you do it, right? You want to take the eyes that are out here and looking around out here and turn them this way. Because if you turn them this way, it's not so crazy. So by doing one thing for yourself next week that takes the focus off your child and puts the focus back on you. Imagine you haven't had much of a life in the last little while. And I know that, I get it. It's you get caught up in the drama, you get caught up in the sickness, you get caught up in the events, and you forget about yourself. You stop sleeping because you're worried. Where is he? What's she doing? Who is she with? Where is he going? When is he going to come home? You're listening for the door. You're listening for the car, all that stuff. You're listening, and even when they're home, you're listening for them to sneak out, right? So you're not sleeping much. You're not eating much because you're worried, right? Or you go the other way and you're overeating, right? Yeah, one of two. I overeat. It's one of those things. I have a girlfriend of mine who starves, right? And it's trying to get that back in balance. And it's not easy, and you'll get there. You will totally get there. But one thing at a time. I imagine that you spend a lot of your work day, whether you're at home or at a traditional job, thinking about your kids or your child and wondering, did she get to school? Did she take a lunch? Did she do all that stuff? Is she high right now? Is she drunk out of her mind right now? Waiting for that phone call that something's happened, right? You're on edge all the time. Your nervous system is out of whack. And the amount of adrenaline coursing through your body all the time is probably very, very high, right? When we're really stressed out, we release a lot of cortisol, and that makes us very, very tired. We feel like we're in fight or flight all the time, and it doesn't change. And because you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop. By doing something for yourself, you go for a massage. I know it sounds ridiculous, but go for a massage. Go for a walk. I had a dad one time who I said to him, you need to choose one thing and do one thing before family group next week. And he was like, okay. So he started walking with the dog. And 2.5 years later, he still walks every single day with the dog. Every day by himself. He just goes out for his walk. And that's his time to rejuvenate. That's his time to reflect. That's almost like his meditation, right? And he said that saved him when his daughter was in turmoil. And, it's interesting how that happens. And it's interesting how by doing one simple thing that it changed his whole outlook on on things. And he was more able to cope with what was going on, right? So you make your list, you choose your one thing this week, and you schedule it in. And then the following week, you choose 2 things and you schedule it in. And nothing interferes with that block of time. Nothing, right? One of the things I've started to do, and I started this at the beginning of the year, and it wasn't a New Year thing, it just kind of was sort of how it fell, when the kids went back to school, I take them to school, and then I take my journal and I go to Starbucks and I have myself a really nice cup of tea, and I sit and I journal for an hour. And then I come home and I come down to my office, because my office is in my home. I come down to my office and get to work for the day, right? I don't schedule any clients before that hour, because that's my time now. And what that's done is it has changed how I cope with my day. The big giant things, the police at my door, or them calling me because one of my big kids is in the hospital, right? Or has been picked up tagging, or has been all sorts of things. You know, that kind of stuff. A confrontation with my ex-husband or anything like that. Because just because someone's in recovery doesn't mean that they're saints now, right? We all still have things we do that are part of the disease of addiction, right? So a confrontation with my ex-husband, or a conversation with my dad, or anything like that doesn't set me off anymore. It doesn't trigger me, doesn't spin me out. I can, okay, so I did my writing, I had my time and focused on me for the day. And then that kind of spins out to the rest of the day. It helps me be more present. It helps me be more understanding. It helps me stay in me and not be all out here projecting to everyone else what I think is going on. And I let go of control a little bit, which is kind of cool. So just by doing that one little thing that I've started, right? The other thing I've started to do, and the second thing I did, was I started shutting everything down, TV, phone, everything, by 9:30. And that gives me an hour before I go to bed to just read whatever I want. I don't have to read a book for work. I don't have to read a book for school. I don't have to read a book about anything else. I can sit and read a novel. And I love that. It just gives me time to wind down in the day. So there's a couple of ideas for you. I've added in, a few little things here and there, like a massage and a walk with a girlfriend. I try and meet my girlfriends at the track, or somewhere where we can go walking fairly easily, and that kind of stuff. I've started to throw in extra things, and on my weekends that I have to myself, when my kids go to my dad's, I add a couple more things because I have more time. But I'm starting to include my children and my little kids and stuff like that I want to do too, right? And that is making a big difference. So just to give you an idea, it's not as hard as it seems. I'm a single mom with 4 kids, and I'm still managing to do it. So it's not as hard as it seems, but you just take baby steps and putting it all together, right? The fourth one is let go of control. I'm just giving you a minute to freak out. Letting go of control is hard. It's probably the hardest thing. One of the things I was taught very, very early in recovery was to let go of the outcome of things. Well, really? Like, I want it to be the way I want it to be. I want it to be my way. Give me a break. But no, if you let go of control, then you let go of how things are going to turn out in your own mind, right? You can do the footwork, It's like doing an assignment for school. You do the assignment to the best of your ability and you hand it in, and then it's like, it's kind of up to the teacher. It's kind of up to the teacher, right? So it's like with your child, it's like you can instill all the good stuff in them that you want, and you got to let go of how it's going to turn out, One of the things that I really, really noticed was I stopped managing how things were going to go. Doesn't mean you can't plan, but like my daughter's birthday party, okay? So we got 10 little kids coming. I want it to all be a certain way. I want it to be perfect for her, all that good stuff. And I couldn't make it perfect. and 2 kids didn't show up. And she was crushed. She was crushed. And I couldn't take care of that for her. I planned the best I could, but I couldn't control who was coming and who wasn't. And I had to let that go. I had to totally just let that go. And it was okay, right? It was okay. Instilling things in my kids that they know how to be nice kids. They know how to be polite and kind and gentle. And then I have to let go what they're doing out in the world on some level, right? Doing a project for work and everybody not doing their part. That's hard. It's hard. But all I can control is my part. All I control is what I do. I cannot control what anybody else around me does. Right? I can set boundaries. I can make requests. I can ask for what I need, but I can't make anyone else follow through. Can't make my child not eat the bag of cookies, even after I've hit it 5 times, right? And I've noticed for me, one of the things that really made a difference for me in the whole control business was just being aware. When was I controlling, right? When was I trying to force things, and when was I trying to make things happen? And it wasn't necessarily just around my addicted family, but it was around things where I was worried about what other people thought, and things around what I was worried about not being perfect and not doing my best, and everything had to look just so. Well, it doesn't have to be like that anymore for me. I do my best. Sorry, my kittens are distracting me under the door. I do my best, and that's all I can do. The rest is up to the universe, and that's all that I can have happen, right? So I started to notice and be aware of when I started like going over the edge with controlling behaviors and everything having to be just so. And it was when I was anxious, when I was nervous, and that kind of stuff. And so I started just trying to let go and trying to, okay, so just do my best, and the rest is up to everybody else, right? The rest is up to the universe. I can't force it to happen. And it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference. The other thing that made a difference around my controlling was I started using a few simple phrases. Instead of having to fix and change and manage everything for everyone, I started using 3 simple phrases that made a huge, that just helped. One was, I wish I could help you. I wish I could help you. Because then I'm not trying to control the situation, and I'm not just trying to fix it, change it, or make it better for anyone else. Okay, I'm respecting the fact that I need to not control this and make myself insane, right? The second thing was, I am sure you will figure it out. I'm not going to fix this for you. I'm sure you'll figure it out, because if I fix it, I'm going to get in there and control the whole thing, and I don't want to do that. And the other one was, that's too bad. That's too bad. I'm not going to control how it is to try to change the situation to make that person better and fix that person, right? And I'm not going to control the outcome for them. I did that for a long time, and it's painful. It's absolutely painful. So letting go of control, and I still wrestle with it a lot. I really do. It's one of those things where my kids will say, Mom, I've got this. I've got this. Or I'll try and control what goes on at my kid's dad's house, right? I try and like, oh, he doesn't do things my way, and oh my God, what am I going to do? And da-da-da. No, I just have to let it go. They have their own relationship with their dad, and I can't control that. It's none of my business. That was a hard one. That was a really hard one for me. So the last one is seeking support from a knowledgeable Professional. That'd be me. No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, I'm not really kidding. I've got a lot of experience with addiction, and having been in it and around it my entire life, and done a lot of work and a lot of research, I am very knowledgeable. But talking to someone who you can trust, talking to someone who you can open up and let it all out with is really important. And getting guidance from someone, recognizing that, that you have a part to play in the whole realm of addiction with your child. And I know it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. And you don't want to be a part of it. They're the addict. Why do I have a problem? Right? I wrote an article about that long ago, and it's on my website if you want to have a look. But you do have a part because you contribute to the family dynamics, right? And they bounce off you and you bounce off them. And there's roles you all play in the family, and there's ways that you interact with each other that creates the perfect storm, right? I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that any of this is your fault, right? Like, you know that. I hope you know that. This is not your fault at all. But there's a saying, right? It's addiction is not a spectator sport. Eventually the whole family gets to play. And it's true, right? Like, who would have thought a kid at 6, 7, 8 years old would have contributed to her father's addiction? Well, I did. And I didn't even know it. I was doing things like walking on eggshells. And I was doing things like hiding my report card so I wouldn't get in trouble. And don't do anything to upset dad. And don't rock the boat. And, and not standing up for myself and not doing the things that most kids are saying, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay, because I was scared, right? And contributing to my dad's addiction in just letting him do whatever he wanted and not be accountable to us kids, right? And I see it in my brother, my little brother. My little brother's 20 years younger than me, so it's like having a child. And watching him and how I need to talk to someone about how his addiction affects me, and how I want to fix and change and make everything better for him. And I can't. And here's the deal. I've been doing this for a very long time. And I still want to manage him. I still want to, if you didn't do that, and do, the whole bit. And I can't do that for him. I just can't. It's not okay. He needs to find his bottom himself. So I need to have someone to go talk to, right? And there's a stigma. So I'm just reading here quickly what I've written. There's a stigma, recognizing the stigma attached. And like, chances are you're not talking to anybody about it. You're not talking to your friends. You're not talking to your family. And I know, because I did the same thing. My mom did the same thing. She wasn't talking to anybody. Both her kids are wasted and she's not talking to anybody, right? So, and her husband. So both her kids and her husband are wasted, and she's not talking to anybody. And it was like, I can't imagine the hell she was going through. And it wasn't until she got her own help that she started to be different, right? So, but there is a stigma attached, and there's no reason for it, right? There's no reason for it at all. It's a disease. It's not a moral question, right? When I drink, I cannot stop. I want to stop. Don't want to behave like that, but I can't help it. Right? It's no different than someone having cancer. Can they help having cancer? No. Is it their fault? No. So I know it's a hard gear to click, though. I get that. Having a support group of other parents is very important, because it allows you to build a network of people to draw on their experience. It allows you to have other people to bounce things off of that are in the same situation. It allows you to be to be accountable to other people who get it, and B, it gives you somewhere to take your stuff, right? And no judgment, you know. I do a family group at a treatment center, and the things that happen there and the things that are said there are just like, yes, they're talking about it, because people aren't talking about it anywhere else, right? I know it's getting cool to be sober, because there's lots of celebrities getting sober, but families still aren't talking, right? And there's lots of support for families out there, but you got to dig for it. You got to dig for it. So I am offering, and it's in the handouts, I do believe, that you can download. I'm just looking for the page. I'm offering oh, there it is. It's going to be backwards. Take advantage of our services. So I do Bridges, which is what I call my support program. And it's 12 weeks. And it is, it's a curriculum, basically. It is a support group, but there's more education as well, right? So you learn things like boundaries and detachment and communication. And I'm reading the list on my board here. What is addiction? The language of recovery. It's a whole different language, when your child is using or drink or sober. How to take care of yourself. What is codependency? You know, I didn't know what codependency was until someone called me codependent, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I had to go find out, right? Learning how to communicate effectively with your addicted child or your child in recovery. I'm learning how to set boundaries and say no. Did you know that no is a complete sentence? Yeah, I didn't know that either. So dealing with your thoughts and feelings, and that you can change how you feel by how you think and what you believe. And are your beliefs really yours, or are they something that was handed down and you just kind of like, oh, all right. So working through some of that stuff, right? Guilt, grief, and shame, they all kind of tie together, and working through some of that stuff, right? Because none of this is your fault. You didn't cause it. You certainly didn't cause it at all. You can't cure it, and you can't control it, right? You just can't. So I offered the support group in 2 ways. The first way is in person. If you're in the Vancouver area, you're more than welcome to come to my group in my office. And it's going to start on Thursday, February 25th from 7 to 9. And the in-person one only has space for 10 people. Small, intimate, easy to get to know. And that was, I'm giving, if you've attended the webinar, there's a huge discount. I'm giving you 20% off. So it's $575 now rather than $725. So that's for the 12 sessions. And then if you are not in the Vancouver area, you can do a virtual group, and there's only 25 spaces in that. And it's going to begin on Thursdays as well, on the 25th from 5 to 6:30. It's only an hour and a half because there's not the mingling time before and after. Okay, some fellowshipping before and after. And that was $600, and now it's $480. So the forms are available on the link on the event page, and they're also available in Google Drives, and I've shared those. So the other piece that I wanted to let you know is I do counseling by Skype and in person. So if you're interested in any of that, you can get a hold of me and through my website at familiesdorecover.com. That's familiesdorecover.com. Or you can email me at Jodi, Jodi, at familiesdorecover.com. Or you can find me on Facebook or on Twitter at Jodi Takhar, Takhar. I'm all over the place online. So you can find me wherever. And I applaud you for being here. I applaud you for taking a step and starting to learn about, if you've been learning a lot, starting to continue your education about addiction. We covered a lot of material today. I know it doesn't seem like much. It's only like, I don't know, we talked about 6 things, but it's a lot of material, and it's a lot to take in. So give yourself some time to just kind of sort it out. And if the handouts are all there and it's all in writing for you. So please, 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 please print off the handouts and go from there. Yeah, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. And I look forward to connecting with you another time. If you have questions or thoughts or comments or suggestions, or I'm very open to all that kind of stuff, it would be fabulous. I would really love to hear back from you. And if I can be of service in any way, please let me know. Thank you so much for being here, all 3 of you. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day.